So yeah, we're just starting off. No fancy intro or anything. Here in the studio, Michael Lasiter. This would be Life Unraveled, episode 13. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing great, man. Good to be here.
I know, right? It's been good. I probably talked to you a lot about the podcast for like a year, huh? Like just because I was really wanting to do it. And you're, I think we're like 30 episodes. I think I've done a few solo ones, but most of them been guests. So appreciate you coming on.
No problem, man. Happy to talk.
Yeah. So we were just, I was mentioning to you about the fights last night. Have you been following anything about Mackenzie Dern?
I've heard the name. I don't know.
Okay, I got this little video I want you to see. It's called The Evolution of Mackenzie Dern's Accent.
That is where she popped up in the headlines at something about
Yes,
her.
there's a controversy. Well, and it's like got people clicking her name. Like,
Well, what was that happened with Madonna? There was like a time where she just developed a British accent all of a sudden.
I wonder if it was when she was with Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, just like she just started showing up at interviews speaking like she was from London.
It's crazy too. I need to type in accent. I was like, I just typed in Mackenzie Dern. Okay, the evolution of Mackenzie Dern. So her dad is Megaton Diaz, who is a total savage. He's fought in like every worlds ever since the first one.
Like Jiu-Jitsu?
In like 96, I think.
Not
was the
MMA.
first. Yeah, Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
So, come on. What's going on here? Oh, I muted it so we wouldn't get feedback. So she has this. So we're watching this video called "The Evolution of Mackenzie Dern's Accent." So she when she's like 16, she talks like this Valley girl. Like she speaks fluent English. Let's
Yeah.
just kind of. Perfect English. And granted, her dad is Portuguese. Cora's trained with this girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she fought last night and won a split decision against this girl named Ashley Yoder. I think it's Ashley Yoder. 2012. It has it like by year, dude. Origin immersion camp. $2013. Looks like that's it keeps getting better. 2014. Here's where it really starts, dude. You took me down. You took me down.
What is that? What is
This
going
laugh.
on? What is that?
She's gonna be dropping her E's and her L's. Oh, it's getting better. I know that. 2017. Yeah, so this is the number one conversation everybody's having when they bring up Mackenzie Dern's name. I wanted to talk about it.
Who does it remind me of? It reminds me of...
What the hell, Alex Jones? I know who you are.
So, who's the crazy guy that will show up with Eddie Bravo and challenge people and pretend like he's going to get in fights with them? And he plays up the Brazilian accent really, really hard.
Rafael Laranja, I think it is. I need to turn this off.
Yeah, he does the... he'll switch the R's and the H's like on every single word. That's what that reminds me of. I don't know what's going on with that woman, but that's definitely...
Yeah, she's definitely... Well, okay, so she has been to Brazil a few times. She did have this Brazilian boyfriend named Tiquinho? No? That's Paul Harris's name.
Paul Harris.
Quisquinho.
Oh, Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but she had this Brazilian boyfriend. Her dad's from Brazil, and I mean, she does speak fluent Portuguese and fluent English apparently. So she speaking more Portuguese theoretically could have to do with that and being to Brazil a few times. But it's like she's, as far as I know, lived in the United States her whole life. But she's been immersed in the Brazilian jiu-jitsu lifestyle.
Where's she training
culture. I'm pretty sure she still trains out of Arizona. So that's where their school's at. I think it's in Phoenix. But Megaton Diaz is a total savage, and his daughter is pretty savage too. She got a sick omoplata win, and I think, was it Legacy? I think it was in Legacy, that promotion that Cora fought on. So super sick. Here, I'll throw it up real quick, actually, because you will appreciate it. But so Mackenzie Dern. See, what I'm trying to do, did I tell you I signed up for this podcasting masterclass? So I did. You've seen those, like them advertising those master classes for people for different things like writing, and like Martin Scorsese did one for directing. So did Ron Howard. Steve Martin did one for comedy.
Is it like a seminar, like a 2-day seminar?
It's like 7 hours of content on like how Adam Carolla. So like, and this like kind of helps you like with some goals. Say, so like now one of my number one goals is to do 5 podcasts a week, right? Whether it's guests. So I did 2. I did one Friday. I did one yesterday. We're doing this one today. And then I've got like a couple of solo reviews I'm throwing up. So I'm just going to stay on. I'm trying to get set up to do like my history podcast in my office. I'm getting a portable digital recorder and a condenser mic that I can basically have. I could use a condenser mic in the studio for multiple guests, like last night. So like, I don't want to invest in like a 4th setup, like a 4th set of, or 4th mic stand, studio headphones, because that's like probably $250. And I can't take it out of here. But like a Blue Yeti microphone, we can just take these mics off. Cool. Yeah, we could take these mics off if we wanted, set it in the center of the table when we're doing 4 people, and we'll be good. Yeah. You know, and but then I'd still run it through my computer. But I'm also looking at like, I'm trying to figure out how to go with like a live stream broadcasting system. And I'm just now learning about it. So like when I'm like pulling stuff like this, like we get it in the headphones, it doesn't record, but it actually kind of sucks for the audience in a way. Yeah. Because they don't get to see it, and I'm not going to edit it in after the fact because that takes forever. But, you know, that I think this is it.
Well, you've always got the YouTube live.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you do, like, I need like a little system to do that, and I'm trying to get set up to where like whatever I pull up on the computer or like whatever we're seeing on the TV pops up into the video that's getting recorded. Right. So I'm trying to figure out how to do it. So watch this, dude. So this girl's gonna kind of like, she ends up getting her basically in like this weird crucifix version of this. So here, I believe she rolls right here. So see that? Like it's like a crucifix omoplata. Yeah, what do you think about that, dude?
That is gnarly.
We're watching Mackenzie Dern versus Montana, I think. Was that girl's name? In Legacy.
She set that up with rubber guard, right?
Let's back it up.
Or like half a rubber guard.
Have we worked very much rubber guard? I've been working quite a bit of it. See, they're talking about Megaton right there. I've been working quite a bit of it with Brent, who's I'm working with a little bit today. We're going to film. So.
Yeah, that's dominant.
Yeah, it is, dude. That's a pretty cool little transition. I've hit something like that before. So, but yeah, anyway, that's a couple of relevant topics as we just, watched that fight last night. Mackenzie Dern fought. She was the last fight on the undercard. So I thought she was on the main card, but she wasn't. I don't know if they bumped her or if she ever was. I could have just been seeing her at the top spot of the prelims, or the undercard rather. So, But yeah, fights were good. This is a guy named Sean O'Malley. He's a total gangster. He fought and like broke his foot in the 3rd round, and then Frankie Edgar for the first time in his career got finished, dude.
Who beat him?
This guy named Brian Ortega, who trains at like Henry Gracie's.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Crazy. Aaron Morris has trained with Brian Ortega, one of our blue belts, who he's a vanishing blue belt.
Yeah, I was about to say I hadn't seen him.
I hope you're listening to this, Aaron. He's actually going to come over with this historian guy that he knows that works at Tech, and we're going to do a craft beer podcast where we just drink craft beer. Yeah, pretty cool.
And it gets more interesting as the podcast goes on.
Yeah,
for you guys.
I know. It'll be a lot like the Toffer podcast. Dude, that got out of hand. No, I didn't, but it was a good time. It was the smallest bottle of Crown. Well, so there's a lot of talk going on about these crisis actors. Okay, so and that's a controversial topic to use, actually. So I think the best way to that I would like to put that is coached. They were coached.
There's definitely coaching.
Yes, I mean there's a rhetoric. There's these anti-Trump lines being preached. There's just things that, and two, there's like I don't know why, and I'm not saying that this shooting didn't happen, that we let it happen or anything like that. I can only speculate about anything like that, but that like there were 3,000 students at that school. They chose like really 2 main ones, that the girl with the shaved head and then the kid David Hogg. To be the spokespeople out of 3,000 people, and it's like I haven't seen them demonstrate any signs of trauma, and it looks like they're reading from a teleprompter.
Yeah.
And I've seen some outtake videos too, and I mean I'm not trying to pump crazy conspiracies. I did accidentally text one of my mentors last weekend because I went down this LBJ rabbit hole, and then YouTube autoplay snuck up and just screwed me, and it was like, hey, here's this guy Roger Stone, and he says that LBJ killed John F. Kennedy. Here's his book, and he's gonna talk about it. And I was like, I'm like texting Woods. I'm like, dude, have you heard of this?
You
like,
told me about that.
What do you think about this? And he's like, bro. And then like the next day, I was like, hey, sorry for texting you on Sunday about LBJ killing John Kennedy.
Took the piss out of
But it's just conspiracy. So there are a bunch of people like Roger Stone that have worked in various administrations in the White House that have made careers off of the insider information that they have, but it's like what Woods was saying, it's like kind of them preying on the unknowable,
right?
You know, like more people than not can't live with not knowing. So that's where these conspiracy theories come in. I actually am interested in doing a spot on like the history of conspiracies, and this would be one we would have to talk about. It's like all these recent ones. There's the Vegas, I don't know, what is it, factions in the media? What is your take on that whole situation?
Well, I look at when does it show up? What do they pay attention to? What do they run in the news? It's like, we don't talk about Chicago. We don't talk about Detroit. We don't talk about like the numbers of people getting gunned down in Chicago.
Or suicides. That's like an unfair representation of the numbers. And, like I have my concealed carry, and I'm actually about to recertify, and I'm doing the advanced course with McMillan. Do you need recertification anytime soon?
I did mine like a year ago. Yeah.
So, who'd you do your...
Hubbard, Philip Hubbard.
Okay, yeah.
I used Alan Bradley, and Philip Hubbard, and then McMillan.
Yeah, he's just getting into it. So he's coming on the podcast on Friday, and he's going to talk about some of the same stuff. And I mean, I'm not trying to talk about... here's the thing, like, we're a government that is not going to give super small factions of any minority tons of power,
right?
Traditionally speaking, but I feel like that's a lot of what's being pushed, and I'm all for civil rights and individual rights and people being kind of just like allowed to do their own thing, and hopefully not judged by society too much and persecuted or
and that's the thing about society. It's like every society has an element of tyranny to it. That's why it's a society. There has to be a certain amount of pressure, but there also has to be this idea where you're trying to walk that line where there's enough liberty that people can pursue the things that they want to pursue, where you don't make it, because that's what I see when you're talking about the groups. It's like they've set it up like it's a victim hierarchy, and the more victimized you are, the more we should listen to you.
Yeah,
something like
even
that.
Though it's a small percentage. So like, what's crazy on statistics speaking, that when they're doing these gun deaths, a very, 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 very high percentage of gun deaths in this country are due to suicide. So that's like a whole other issue.
And then you look at the direct correlation. Well, not only that, but who is suiciding. It's, well, I think I mentioned this to you maybe a week ago or something like this, that from ages, I want to say, I don't remember if it's in the teens to the early 40s, something around that section of young men, the highest cause of death for them is suicide. And when I read that, of course it's cited and it's legitimate and everything. I looked into it. It's not just clickbait, but you never hear that mention. But when we have the school shooting, or a Sandy Hook situation, it's like it's nonstop in the media, and people are jumping all over it, and then they're pointing at kids saying that these traumatized children are the ones that we should be listening to on how we are going to shape our policy for a country. I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't like how they're being used as a mouthpiece, and I think that that is a common theme too. It's like, and look, that's. You can. I saw a meme floating around on the internet that was like, like if you're gonna raise the gun age to 21, raise the voting age to 21.
Yeah, why is it that you can decide how a country is going to be run with your vote, essentially?
Yeah, exactly.
But you're not. And that's another thing that really bothers me is like the handguns, for instance. Like say say you have a daughter, she gets to where she's 19, she's going to move out, she's going to college, whatever it is. She's not legally able to buy a handgun to protect herself.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're at the age for men, for example, 18, you have to be registered for the draft in case we get in a situation.
Yeah, that's you can defend your country and fire an AR.
Yeah.
For 50 cal or something, but you.
Right. But you can't be trusted to have the liberty to defend yourself, and that's
So here was another thing. So I saw, just like doing some research, this video, this lady from the NRA that was just getting roasted at this town hall meeting. I believe so. Yeah. Did you watch that?
I've seen bits of it.
Yeah, there's that. There was a lot of highlights. I watched the whole little thing, and I'm trying to figure out. I think she said that there are only 5 million members in the NRA. Do you know if that's correct? I'm trying to Google it right now.
That seems like that would be really low.
Hold on just a second.
So I was actually an NRA member for a while.
We lost our audio feed for a second on the computer. I don't know why. But we're back on, and we've got constant feed on the video, so we're good. How many NRA members does so like what I'm doing here on my computer, I'm trying to get this to record for the audience on YouTube.
Right.
And there's a few ways to do that. And then my next goal is multi-camera angles, so like a shot on your face, shot on my face, and a shot of the table.
Mm-hmm.
How many members in the NRA 2017? This says 14 million. So that's a little more. I was like, damn, 5 million. That's insane. Like, that is a pretty small number of people. I thought it would be more than that. $40 a year. Yeah, I mean, I've never been a member, but I do like. Here's what I think, and did it pop off again? This happened one other podcast. Okay, this happened one other podcast that the audio popped off a few times. It was the Hickson Gracie, the Tokyo Cup review. And I was just thinking about that today. And now I was like, man, that was so weird. And then because that's the podcast I've done that I got the most views. But anyway, where were we at before?
You were talking about how Dana was getting just completely. Well, she said that she had to have security and that they actually were like rushing the stage.
Yeah, they were being, and you know,
of course, you know, CNN didn't. That's not where the cameras are. You know what I mean? Like they're keeping it on the people that are on the stage, and then they pan out to the audience once in a while. But she said that it was. She was basically saying it seemed like they tailored the event with a specific set of people. This wasn't like just like, hey, let's kind of get a sample group.
Do you know anything on that Parkland shooting about there being active shooter drills at the school that day? That's something I kept hearing about, but I couldn't verify.
But I thought it was a fire drill. I may be wrong on that.
But they had been doing active shooter drills, or were supposed to have one.
I had heard that one of the kids mentioned that they thought
multiple shooters.
This is for real because we already had a drill earlier today, and they wouldn't do.
Yeah, so that seems to be where a lot of people are drawing like some of the conspiracies. Is there was this possibility that they had an active shooter drill that day. There was also several students that were interviewed, apparently, that said there were multiple shooters. And I don't know anything about either one of those things. And then this is a crisis actors conspiracy. But what I think is that they sampled a couple of kids that were probably, I think they were already in drama and were already kind of, maybe they were teenage activists, but man, their rhetoric. And then this David Hogg kid, his dad was retired FBI agent, and he was saying some stuff like, well, you know, Trump's in charge of the FBI, and he you know, they're the hardest working people, and like it was just like it almost was like lobbying or something was going on. It was like, man, they are really using this kid who was in a school while a shooting happened to be a mouthpiece.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I haven't been looking a ton into the crazy conspiracy. I did do some research. I watched some different reports. I watched a lot of different videos on it, different videos of interviews with those kids that they're using. And it just seems like they're highly coached on pro-FBI. And that's because apparently, you know, the FBI was reported to on his YouTube page. That's his YouTube page or something like that.
Yeah, and they also, if I understand correctly, the See Something, Say Something, they were also contacted by another individual who was worried about Nicholas Cruz. That was independent from the guy who had the YouTube channel, who had a video that Cruz posted on, and he said, you know, I want to be a famous professional school shooter, something like that. And so it bothered him enough that he contacted them, and I think he said that they sent an agent who came to him and like asked him if he knew Cruz, and as soon as he found out that he didn't know him, he seemed like he was not interested in following it any further, and he said he never heard anything else again.
Yeah.
So,
man, what I get paranoid about is like there was one cop, I think it might not have been at that town hall meeting, but it could have been another interview I was watching. It was like, you know, like let's say there's issues with like crazy people in the community getting reported for being crazy. And they get reported to cops, and maybe they even get taken into jail a couple of times, but it just like they're a continual menace to society. It's like the cops really don't have the power, and I like almost really that they don't, to do anything a lot of times meaningful until it seems like it's too late, until somebody flies off the handle and murders somebody in the community.
The idea originally was that you allowed individuals to be able to defend themselves. And so, you know, you weren't, you know, if the police help you, that's great. But you have prepared in such a way that you're not depending on that wholly, you know, because, well, in this situation, for instance, the police, the FBI were notified. I think that county's sheriff's department had been notified something like 30-something times about this kid. You know, he's violent.
Exactly. And I mean, and it's like maybe they did some things, but it's like there are like holes. Like this girl, lady in the town hall meeting was saying, it was a really good point. It's like, you know, a lot of states aren't reporting these mental health cases. It's like there's a disconnect between what's getting reported to the system that runs the background check.
Right.
So there's all these holes, gun shows and stuff, and I do believe there needs to be some reform in some areas about, you know, like background checks and stuff like that. But it's on a state by state.
If you think you're going to keep people from getting the means to harm other people, you know, it's like
No,
it's not going to happen. Like you, even if you attempted that, it's like the people that are going to be running those systems is the DMV. Like it's that type of bureaucracy is what you're saying.
Dude, I was on unemployment for like 17 months. So during the recession, like right after Bush took office, when the economy totally tanked, I got laid off from work, and I was able to draw the maximum amount of unemployment for like 17 months. I went back to college and became a genius and started the podcast. But, it's like dealing with those people at the unemployment office was just like, and two, it's kind of like the IRS. Like if you deal with somebody that you don't like dealing with, you'll be like, oh, I gotta go, and you call back and get somebody else that's nice and they take care of you, dude.
Right.
What is that?
But that's how bureaucracy works. You get that. Those are the ones. It's not. I mean, if you want to, it's crazy to me that you can look at the level of incompetence that was going on. And maybe it's not that they didn't want to do anything. Maybe they weren't able to fix the problem. And you're saying we need to give them more. We need to give them more authority. We need to give them more ability. When obviously they didn't use the means that they had effectively, efficiently. I don't know that argument. Like it's the same thing that we find. On the far left, for instance, they'll say like, well, the police are militarized and that's a problem and they're out of control and they're just gunning people down and we've got to put a stop, to the power that they have. And then we have a shooting like this and they come out and they say the only ones that should have guns are cops, So
you can't. Yeah, I know it's a fine line, and it's like basically that cop was saying we can't intervene. We need the power to intervene. I'm like, hell no, because here's what I think about like a ton of things, and Joe Rogan talks about this a lot. But it's like I learned it all through college and graduate school, and it's my area of expertise in history. In my own view, it's like my number one area of interest, if nothing else. But so have you heard of the Gulf of Tonkin incident or Tonkin Gulf resolution?
Gulf of Tonkin incident sounds familiar.
So that's this incident in which like these crazy have you ever heard of the Pentagon Papers?
Yeah.
So Ellsberg, who published the Pentagon Papers, he was working at the Pentagon. It's like his first day on the job or something. He starts receiving these crazy correspondence calls from this ongoing operation in Vietnam. There's like, there's all these torpedoes in the water. We're freaking out. Well, come to find out, the communication gets cleared up, and it's like, maybe nothing happened. Nothing happened. But LBJ, leveraged that incident to get Congress to pass the Tonkin Gulf resolution, which it only had 2 opposition votes in the House, I believe, and the Senate passed, because LBJ used to be the majority leader and party whip, so he was like the Frank Underwood of House of Cards. Kevin Spacey, rest in peace, your career.
Yeah. It's okay because he's gay.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he can be gay now.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Just, maybe, but yeah, that's that dude's career. I'm surprised that too. I know they're going to finish House of Cards, but over
they wrote in where he's dead. They
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So, but a lot of these people that were accused of sexual harassment, like Steven Seagal, for example, have been, all their stuff's been pulled from HBO and Netflix.
I actually didn't know that he had been accused.
But 21, and I've seen a few Kevin Spacey movies.
Yeah.
Dude, Dustin Hoffman was accused. I was like,
I did hear about that one. Yeah.
But the Bill Cosby, what is going? But I just think that too. This is stuff that's the dregs of society's probably always gone on, and because of communication and social media and globalization and awareness and social movements and civil rights, and it's why we're hearing about a lot of this.
Another thing is that there's political motivation with it.
Yeah, indeed.
There definitely is, and that's why that to me. Because you keep hearing the same thing. It's like, listen, I watched a really interesting interview where Jerry Seinfeld was saying, it's not the industry. It's not, he was talking, they asked him about, the comedic industry, because, it seems like a lot of these high-level comedians are getting accused. And he said, well, it's not the industry.
Louis C.K.
He said, it's, men and women chase each other. It's always been like that. There's always been, inappropriate stuff going on. It's not like, But it seemed like all of a sudden, though, there's political capital for it. And that's not to say that some of this stuff needs to be dealt with, not at all. But, I'm suspicious of some of the intentions, because I know that when people go to Hollywood, they play the games to get what they want. And then, in the instance of someone like Meryl Streep, for instance, who's been there for decades, and now she's going to come out and be this, bastion of virtue when she knew that these things were happening and didn't notify anybody. Well, I mean, she knows that these individuals are preying upon other people. I don't know.
So here's another thing. So I found a page on this, actually the Wikipedia article, but it has a big bibliography, and I'm looking at it, and it looks rather cited. But who knows? It may have been debunked, but I think this is a thing. So have you ever heard of the Mormon sex in chains case?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so here it is, and I'm gonna make sure my audio hadn't. All right, we're still going. Seems to be like when I click over, but I just had a video I was uploading from our podcast last night with the UFC Fight Companion. It just was exporting over, so that could have caused on the computer what kicked off my audio. That's why I'm getting a digital recorder to go instead of having the computer. Okay, so the Mormon sex in chains case was a widely reported scandal involving a sexual assault by an American woman, Joyce McKinney, on a young American man who was a Mormon missionary named Kirk Anderson in England in 1977. According to Anderson, the Mormon man, he had been abducted by McKinney from steps of a church meeting house, chained to a bed, and raped. Before the case could be tried, she jumped bail and fled to America. So, but it goes on. Like, she ends up kidnapping other people, and she like chloroforms them. I'm talking like this, like a straight up story, like that Misery.
Yeah. That makes me think of Gacy. Gacy was doing that.
But so like they didn't take it seriously because and then she ended up making all this money in the media, but they didn't take it seriously because they're like, a woman could never rape a man. Yeah. So it's like, it is literally this one-way street of like, well, sometimes I feel like men are insensitive or socially stupid when it comes to women and don't know how to communicate, and maybe do it inappropriately, or maybe it's received inappropriately, and then that it seems like a lot of situations like that. Like I'm just like saying, like somebody asking somebody out on a date seems to be like a controversial thing to be trying to do right now.
Yeah, Well, one of the things that Dr. Jordan Peterson was talking about is that we've seen that we don't really know what the rules are between men and women in the workplace, because we've only been doing this for about 40 years now.
Yeah.
So, and he did point out, which I don't think anyone would argue, it's like the relationship between men and women has deteriorated very rapidly in that time.
Yes.
And I mean, you could say,
especially post World War II,
it's correlation and not necessarily causation, but you can't just ignore that. You have to look at it and say, like, well, can en masse, is it sustainable? Because like you said, men and women are very different. We can talk all day about how like we're all the same, but we're not. I mean, you look at the prison systems. It's like that one of the reasons that woman, I'm sure, wasn't they didn't take that seriously is because they saw like, well, all the people that are on that vast, like super aggressive, violent, criminal activity level are almost completely men.
Yeah.
And that is how it works out. But that's not to say that there aren't, there's other ways of being a criminal. You know what I mean? And then there are outliers who are, maybe just like her. Maybe she was just super aggressive and was just kind of a very unusual case.
Yeah, that is a wild story. But then too, I will say this: you hear a lot more of these stories more and more, and there's one in the media that I keep hearing about, and I don't think it was in Arkansas, but like female teachers, like.
Well, that's all over
having
the place.
Sex with their students and
like
young teachers, and they're married.
Female and so here's the thing: it's like, is it feasible to expect, since this keeps happening over and over and over again, the young men that are put in that situation, It's like, how many do you know that would be able to deal with that? Zero.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I were the kid in that situation, it's like you raging hormones. You know, this is an older person. You know, so there's a certain amount of respect that you give to them. There's a lot of abuse of position going on with that, and you start to wonder, is like, is it how are we going to set it up so that it's not that way? I don't know how you can. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that dynamic, I mean, it's as old as people are, you know. There's always been that tension between the sexes, and, you know, trying to, I mean, the debate now talking about how we're going to make it, you know, illegal for a man to make a woman uncomfortable. I mean, that's like, well, who's deciding that? What are the social,
like, it's really rewriting social norms.
Yeah.
You know, in a big way. And that's, I mean, man, revolutions were started on those types of ideas.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Like, if you're at work and a coworker asks you out on a date and you didn't particularly want them to ask you out on a date, that's not sexual assault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, if they take it further and they're harassing you or something like that, that's a different issue. But they're wanting to make it to where it's just like maybe any comment that they would think is unbecoming.
Yeah.
And that's sexual assault. You have to fire that person. You know, it's like, that reminds me it's like what was going on in the Soviet Union. It's like you had to be careful what you said.
Yeah. So here's a weird situation that's popping into my head, and like I'm just like, because I was always just like, I mean, it's flattering or whatever, but you're just like, so there's this place that I do regular business at. I'm not even gonna say what type of business it is, but I would go in there and deal with different people when I would go in there to do business on the regular basis, like a place where you do business for your business. And there would be this one person there that would be like, hey, you know, this other girl over here, she thinks you're really cute, and blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, yes, I love Cora very much, because Cora and I weren't married at that time, you know.
Right.
So, and two, it was almost like, I'm not going to say like there was this like, she thought that since I wasn't married that I was like still up for grabs or something. Right. But it was just like, it wasn't a super persistent thing, but it was like a few times it was brought up, and I was just like, man, like, you know, I'm not saying like I was considering leaving Cora for this other person in any stretch of the means, but it's like that, like, just, it happens periodically throughout life. I think people are approaching, like, it's like temptation to like, and it's like, I don't know, you know, that's probably what people are like. They make decisions and then they regret them the next day, or like as soon as they get done having sex with that person or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there's that, like, a lot of, I remember I was listening to somebody on Joe Rogan, and they were talking about something. It was like having a sexual experience or watching porn or something. It's like, and then you feel immediately guilty afterwards, like, oh, I'm so dirty, you know. And it's and I'm like, yeah, there's that. And then, like, so if there is that, then how much of that it goes on to where it's like, well, let's say that's the next morning when you wake up and both people were drunk and it was consensual as all get out,
right?
You know. And it's like that too. Like the notion too, I feel like universe, and I'm not trying to make any generalizations about this, but it's like I was saying with the sexual, like this lady, it's like, well, of course women are capable of the same sorts of manipulations, whatever you want to call it, harassments.
Yeah.
But and that comes with this, you know.
Yeah. You don't get to just do it one way. And that's the thing that they don't, you know. Again, that's the victim hierarchy. It's like all these women are being oppressed by men, and we've heard that for a long time, but it's really caught in fire now because it's this Me Too movement. And that's what's terrible about it is that
hashtag movements, bro. Hashtag revolution.
And there are a lot of horrible things that need to be unveiled, let's say. Let's see what these people in positions of power have been, how they've been abusing it. Yes. But let's not, like Corey Feldman, for instance, blowing the whistle on what was going on with the young actors in Hollywood, and no one cared.
Sandy was in a movie as Corey Haim. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Small world.
Yeah. Like Sandy's so funny. I went to the coffee house this morning, so like when I say Sandy, that's our last guest, Michael Sandow, aka Sandy Two Sticks, and he like walks in from the back, and Blake was in there too, Balake, and he was like, I'm like, hey, what's up? Corey and I are both there. He's like, what's up, man? He's like, oh, just doing some podcasting in the back. I was like, what the hell, dude?
He was all the time telling me he was like on his case to get that podcast done for like 2 months or whatever.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, bro, I need you on.
And that's the thing is that he's like, Sandy's really good at talking. But like any like traditional,
it's almost like
organized
anything,
format, like kind of like makes him nervous.
I have a buddy like that, and two, like I think that every episode. So I got that 5 podcast a week goal, and like everyone gets better.
Yeah.
The only like last night, like 2, we have 4 people in here. We only had 3 mics, and we were able to compensate for the headphones with like just rigging some stuff up, but. That's why, like, I'm eventually going to need a 4-person setup in here and a totally mobile setup because I want to be able to do stuff at the gym. I'm doing these vlogs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say 4 is about, like, the max. Like, 2 is good. 3 is really good. 4 can be a little much sometimes, but you can still manage it, That's a lot of...
Yeah. So see, like too, some of the stuff that I'm doing with like, if I do 5 a week, let's say I do 3 guests a week. So I'm trying to do this MMA show just about every Friday. And it's been super fun and super educational too, because it keeps me really current with what's going on, and keeps me studying and keeps me thinking about things. And man, it's just there's so many things I could be talking about with like the history and like either stuff like with the vlog I'm doing on the gym channel, like training with I did the first one on training with Jack and the second one on training with Hickson. What real quick segue, what did you think about training with Jack Toffer?
That was pretty great. Yeah,
dude, that private lesson was
yeah, he's like completely focused in his approach. It's like he was like,
it's a certain method.
Yeah,
it's like a certain method of teaching the art.
Yeah, because I'd worked with you a lot, and you've got outstanding details, and I've learned a ton from just doing privates with you, and coming into this pretty green and everything. So to have a high level guy to train with on the regular has been pretty awesome. But you go with a guy like Jack, and he's a Hickson black belt, and he's been doing this for how long?
Man, he shared like I think he started doing it like mid-90s. He was just like a young punk skateboarding teenager type.
Yeah.
And started with Pedro Sauer, and then moved on and eventually trained a little bit with Solo and John Giabero, but then ended up getting his black belt from Dave Kama, who is Hickson's second American black belt. And then since Hickson's moved back, has trained, I would say extensively. Jack's a real humble dude. He would probably be like, oh, I've trained a little bit. But he's done several, maybe like, I feel like he's done 4 or 5 privates with him. And probably, he did class 2 times a week for several weeks, and then 1 time a week for several weeks. So he's had a lot of time on the mat with Hickson himself.
It was one of those things, it's like when we got into it, I was like, man, I wish I could just.
And maybe a dozen Hickson seminars.
You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could just do this for like this whole day.
I know, dude. I know. I want to go to California and train with Jack. Like, I'm thinking about it real seriously.
To their school.
Yeah. And Jack is totally down to come in 2 times a year. And we may have him back in the next, 8, 10, 12 months.
I watched his racist Uber driver.
That's
video.
so funny, right? What the hell?
Man, that woman was angry.
Oh, hell no. Yeah, that was wild. But man, I was just showing Coro some of that Valley Tudo guard that he was showing to us.
Yeah.
Because he showed a side mount escape, and I was talking to him on the phone the other day, and I was like, dude, that side mount escape you showed with the overhook and using your hip pendulum, I was like, that is like, you can go to that Valley Tudo. He's like, yes, that is correct. But man, he showed a lot of good stuff on side mount escapes. We've been working a lot of side mount escapes. And I was just like, you getting to be around that high level person, it changes your game, it changes your approach, and it's very humbling.
Yeah, I could tell it was a market difference for me.
Dude, you picked up on that mount super fast.
The mount was like finding gold.
Yeah. I know. And two, so like that bottom detail on the stiff arm.
Yeah.
See, that won't work if you do the perfect mount. Don't sit on me, bro. I'm on a couch.
Yeah. You just like glued to the rib cage.
Yeah.
And the more they struggle, the worse it gets. You know?
Well, what's crazy too is I've heard Henry Akins explain that in a painfully grueling 25-minute explanation. I mean, it wasn't painful, but like I just couldn't.
It's a little vanilla.
Here's the thing. That stuff is so like if I would have been on bottom, I would, or been sitting right there,
right.
or been in the mix, I could have picked up more. But it's just like even the trained eye on that Hickson stuff and Jack and anything I've learned from those guys or seen Henry Akins show, because like those are the three sources that are putting it from. I did March 12th, I think it is, that Hickson self-defense unit comes out. I cannot wait. Can't wait. Already got the gi.
That'll be the curriculum for a year.
Yeah. Dude, I'm up to a ton of Hickson techniques, man, and Jack techniques, and it's just become a central part of what I do. Because, like, a lot of it's just so related to having good posture, which is such, like, good details for physical fitness, exercise of any kind.
Right.
Like, that's, I've been telling people, it's like, that's why they have the military stand up posture, is because, like, when you're in the heat of battle and your body's wanting to give up, you need a posture so you can breathe, so you can... just like forcing your body into a posture is... Yeah,
you've done it so much, you don't have to think about it anymore. And that's the thing. It's like that where you want to get, where it's like you're putting yourself in the right position without really having to think about it. It's kind of automatic for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's... Yeah.
Which is when if I feel like I really understand the technique and I've got it ingrained and I have the pathways set like that, it'll happen without me having to think about it.
It's so crazy too. Like with the right posture, so many things that people try, if you know the winds of, where to put your base. And like, that's the biggest thing too. Like the standing base and distribution of weight. Like I've done enough of their stand-up stuff now. I feel like I have a pretty good command on how to teach grapplers stand up for judo and jiu-jitsu that don't do striking. Like that's a big thing too. And like I don't do it like traditional sort of wrestlers do it, because I don't like believe in breaking my posture forward like that. So like I stand more vertical, but the way Hickson does a sprawl and the way I learned to do a sprawl from training there, it's next level.
Yeah.
Like it's just like that's the way to sprawl. But, yeah, man. And McMillan, McMillan got some good details from this guy's trained a lot with Hickson named Johnny Lee Smith, and that's the coach of Daniel O'Brien. I think Daniel O'Brien's the guy with the long hair that's done the jiu-jitsu tournaments blindfolded.
Yeah.
Competed in EBI and stuff. So, yeah.
Is he the one that walked out, arms up?
Yeah.
Turned around.
Yeah. Just like kind of Karate Kid style. Yeah. That was and that was an ADCC match. I believe he submitted the Pan American champion, current Pan American champion, Nogi IBJJF.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
Legend.
Yeah, so who would you say your favorite grappler is since you've been doing jiu-jitsu?
Oh, I'd have to think about that. I really, really like Damian Maia.
Yeah.
I like Damian Maia a lot.
I'd have to dig for it, but I have his Science of Jiu-Jitsu series somewhere.
Oh, really?
You'd probably love to see
it. Is it a book or is it DVD?
It's a digital video series.
Cool.
Yeah, like 2 hours of him teaching like side mount escapes and all sorts. I've had it for a long time. It's on external hard drive. You're welcome to take that hard drive with you. And I've got 2 full external hard drives full of like martial arts and jiu-jitsu documentaries.
Nice. Lovato's another guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Love Lovato.
Yeah, I did. Too, like I need to look into that because I need to find his Kimura Secrets DVD for you.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Also, I think I got in the closet over there. I need to loan you that Alan Belcher DVD series.
Yeah.
It's good. I need to watch it again myself and then rip it digital. So, because I had digital access and then he didn't renew his website. I guess he thought people stopped.
You told me about that. Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you never sent me these until you begin with, but I signed up for the package where you're supposed to, and I had this login, which no longer works because you didn't renew your website, and you said it would be good for 99 years, but it wasn't. So come on my podcast and send me these DVDs and teach a seminar at my school.
Come
and
sign some stuff for me.
We'll call it good.
Yeah,
Alan Belcher has won like $300,000 in UFC bonuses.
For just like getting fight of the night.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that Paul Harris fight was fight of the night. It might not have been. Paul Harris. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what else okay, so I wanted to ask you about this. So we talked about this last year during the election, and I've always kind of kept it in the back of my mind with some stuff. So it's been brought to the forefront, and I would say proven by various people that there have been people, factions, billionaires at various times that have paid people to protest. Yes. And this has happened since unions in the early 20th century, right? But so you are an entrepreneur and you are in the sign business, so you make yard signs, digital signs. You do a lot of different beautiful work. So, right after Trump got elected, there was a lot of these counter marches, right? And I'm not being pro-Trump or anti-Trump on the podcast really at all. I'm not even trying to get into that. Like, I did not vote for Trump, but I'm not trying to like take political sides, but what I saw is like right after he was elected, all of these crazy, like literally the day after, like a mass amount, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe 20s of thousands of these signs that these people were holding that were like produced.
Right. And those all have to already be made.
Yeah, that I know, right? So like, and I remember talking to you about that. So what's your take on all
that? I recognized that right away. I saw it was the next day. So, like
most people wouldn't think about that. I'm just going to say,
yeah, most people didn't. But when I saw that, I was like, hold on. I know what it takes to make what those people are holding. And I also am noticing that all those people have the exact same sign. Those are professionally made.
So let's say a bunch of people were making them. Somebody's got to pay all those people. A bunch of people are making them.
Someone paid all those people.
Or let's say a bunch of people like you get contracted. Let's say somebody contacted you, who just like, like we're kind of small town America.
Right.
And they say, hey, Michael, I need 100 yard signs. Can you get that to me by tomorrow?
Yeah.
Is that possible? For you just doing it at your shop?
If someone wanted 100 by tomorrow,
could you make it happen? If you absolutely
if they were a big enough, if it's a big enough printing company, then they could handle that. I'm sure, no problem.
But you're going to need multiple employees, big setup, lots of stuff on hand.
You're going to have,
which is running an expensive operation. So you have to either own those operations outright, or you have to pay people. And so whether it's paid protesters or paid printing for just in case, who's paying for that? That's one thing I have always wondered. And there's like all these conspiracies out there.
Because it has to
George Soros.
A certain amount of it has to be centralized if it's all the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you're not telling me that all these people came up with the same design, because they didn't. It's like this was pre-planned. The thing that got me was that I noticed, in the media, the mainstream media, for instance, like Trump didn't have a chance. It was not even It was not even going to be close.
Dude, it blows my mind that he won.
But here's the thing. This is what I kept following it, and I was like, look, every time he has a rally, every time he goes anywhere, it's like the Rolling Stones playing in Rio. It's like there's a sea of people out there that are coming to his rallies. And then, you know, you look at that, and that was the thing where I started to wonder. It's like, is it possible that because the media is so skewed that the polling is different because of that influence? Or is it the way that they're doing the polling?
Yeah, well,
I've kind of
thought about it like this. Like, it's almost like there's, and I may be describing this in incorrect terms, but it's almost like there's a big lobby in the media. Like, there's a lot of, just like in Washington, it seems to be a lot of paid influence. And there's all these discussions, and I don't know the history of who owns what, New York Times, who owns what paper and what family they're connected to, or getting into any of that. But there does seem to be special interest groups that lobby factions of the media, whether that be on news channels, social media, print media. And too, there's this mad need, it seems like, for like content providers and content creators, and there's not enough time to curate. It's almost like a law or a bill in Congress. It's like the number of pages and committees and all the things it goes through. It's like, really, there's things that make it in there that neither party catch all the time, but just by virtue of the way it's set up. And it's like,
and for the most part, the people there, the representatives, aren't that interested in it anyway. You know, it's like for the majority of them, like, their job is to get reelected. That's their job. And then, you know, they have their projects that they're working on. And so if there's things that are in these bills that aren't, you know, that relevant to them, I don't think that they worry too much about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, man, crazy times to be alive. Right?
Yeah. 2016 was mental.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah. And then we've had a whole year of it now. And two, what's crazy is, like, during that time, in the last, so I got married, like, Cora and I got married, and then I turned 30 and she turned 25. So, like, our car insurance keeps going down, but my health insurance gone up like 300%.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude.
Wow.
We're totally swapping some stuff around, and once we can for this year. But it's insane, man. It's totally insane. And it's a super interesting time to be alive. It's like there's all this great technology, but there's also like more fear and paranoia than maybe ever before. Like, historically speaking, I've been talking about this for a while, and you may or may not be, I'm sure you are familiar with the versions of history or interpretations of history called the First and Second Red Scare. Mm-hmm. Communist fear. Yeah. It's like with Putin showing this new nuclear missile that, you know, it's a lot of fear mongering, a lot of propaganda is going on, and it's the ways in which it can, like, cyber warfare and like cyber bullying, inversely so, in society. It's creating all of this globalization and new technology and new media is creating new social norms, like we said, and new problems. It's like it's a wild evolution of
well, for instance, we have no idea what the effect on this generation is going to be, the ones that grew up with this technology. It's like you and I grew up in a time that is very, very
Dude, different. I had a flip phone.
Yeah.
Now I have this huge ass TV.
Yeah.
This is a TV, dude.
You've got a supercomputer.
My first portable DVD player was like this size. Yeah. And it skipped. I couldn't watch it going down the road, and I was super mad.
And so, you know, with social media really taking off in the past, 5 years, something like that, where social media has really been ingrained into the society, it's like it becomes something that we don't know how to measure its effect. And you and I talked about before the rise in antidepressants, for instance, and how normalized that's been, and then the issuance of you know, like, extremely powerful narcotics, opiates.
Yeah.
And And then you look
and then so like on the antidepressants, where I don't know if this was you and I talking about this the other morning, but there's a lady that was on Joe and Kelly Brogan, but she said that like people get it on an antidepressant and almost always get issued some sort of like antipsychotic or other form of chemical patch because of the side effects of the first medication. It's like, man,
you know, I noticed that people like clinical psychologists will tell you that, you know, it's a very tiny portion of the population that have actual mental illness. Most of it is emotional trauma that they just have not reconciled and haven't figured out how to make peace with. And so just giving someone pills, that you're not solving anything.
Yeah.
You're and that's not to say that there's not a time for it. But, you know, I look at it as almost like, you know, if you have a drug addict, for instance, you know, you might need to give them a synthetic version of what they're addicted to in order to bring them down. But, you know, it's measured and it's you're doing it in a calculated way in order to get them off of it. But to me, it seems like the way that pharmaceuticals with doctors have kind of lined up, it's like, well, you get money if you issue these prescriptions. And, you know, the doctors see, hey, well, there's an immediate improvement, but, you know, it's short. It's not a long-term solution. You know, I think you had mentioned it's someone had put it to you that like putting a Band-Aid on a piece of glass you had stepped on in your foot.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
It's
do
like,
remember that.
Well,
analogy.
maybe it soaks up a little of the blood and hides what was happening a little bit, but you can't, that's not a solution. You have to deal with the problem.
Man, too, so, like, and I know it's different for everybody, and I know that it may even work for some people, but somebody I knew that was on antidepressants for a period of time described it to me in this way. He said, it puts you in a cage no one can see.
Yeah.
You know, like you were saying, like when you're intermittent fasting and you drink, like Brendan Schwab said he felt the same way. That's why he was throwing up and pooping his pants on Joe Rogan recently. But you drank too much coffee before you've got a lot of food in your system, or maybe you had a lighter meal before you went to bed last night and your body's kind of in that fat burning mode. And you drank a cup of coffee or a couple small cups of coffee, you start feeling a little jittery or paranoia. Like imagine that times like 100.
Yeah.
Is how I feel like, you know, it's like some people get really tipped off by like caffeine and stuff causes anxiety and panic, and sensitive to it. Cora is super sensitive to caffeine. Like it has to be like diluted to a certain amount. Like she usually gets like a big coffee with like only one shot or something. Mm-hmm. She doesn't do a lot of caffeine in general. Yeah. Well, dude, we'll have to have you on for like a Jiu-Jitsu Unraveled spot. We should watch them.
For sure.
Like I've been doing this, like Josh Wendell and I are going to do this, hopefully this Friday. He's comes on my MMA show all the time. But we're going to watch 10 John Jones fights. Let me tell you which ones real quick. I'll tell the audience too. And this is open. Okay, so starting with before he's champion, Bonner and Hamill. Hamill's the one where he gets DQ'd.
I saw that one.
Right?
Yeah.
So then we're going to go where he wins the title from Hua. TKOs him with Machida.
Saw the Machida one.
Vitor Belfort.
Saw that one.
Chael Sonnen.
Saw that one.
Rashad Evans.
What happened in the Rashad?
5-round decision. Gustafson, 5-round decision, and Cormier won 5-round decision. Yeah. So those will be some longer fights to watch, but then we're going to watch Cormier too. So we'll do 10 John Jones fights and kind of break those down on the podcast. I did that with BJ Penn. We did BJ Penn's last 10 fights. Super depressing.
I was about to say that would be really sad, actually.
Well, it's sad now because John Jones isn't going to be fighting for quite some time.
Yeah.
At least another year.
Yeah.
From what it looks like. Because they said it was a year from that hearing date minimum before he could, because his license was revoked 1 year from that hearing time.
He's still
and
really
then he
young,
has to go through the USADA. I mean, he's like 28, 29 years old, something like that.
He's a little older than I thought.
Yeah, and I mean, USADA might ban him for like up to 8 years or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this California State Athletic Commission could have issued him a lifetime ban, apparently. Crazy. Did you watch the hearing at all? I watched the whole thing, and it was we talked about it yesterday or Friday on the MMA show.
I would really have liked to have seen Yoel Romero and John Jones
together. Yeah. What is he? He's a middleweight, but Yoel is on like a 5-fight losing streak or something, right?
No, he just destroyed
Let me see.
Luke Rockhold.
Yeah. I'm not Yoel Romero. Oh, we lost our audio again. Every time I click over.
Isn't Yoel Romero's fighting up in light heavyweight, right?
I think he's a middleweight.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He could. Well, I don't know.
I haven't really followed him. He fought when I was in Vegas. And I saw him fight when I was in Vegas. I've just never really been a fan. Cuban judo guy, right? Olympian. Yeah, he did just beat Luke Rockhold. Who was it that I was thinking?
He fought Weidman. He fought Chris Weidman.
Mm-hmm. Who was it I was thinking that we were talking about last night? Big yoked out dude that hasn't won a fight in a while. That was like, well, let me look, because he fought Jake Shields back in the day.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name though.
I'm gonna find out. Can't believe I'm spacing. And well, Hector Lombard.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I guess they don't really look alike. They're both super yoked. Both super jacked.
Yoel Romero, they call him Soldier of God.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just almost killed Weidman with a knee. Weidman was kind of like going in for a shot, and
Weidman's kind of been on the downfall, man.
Split him open. It was pretty brutal.
Let's take a look at Chris Weidman's record real quick. You know, and he's getting on up there in his career. It's like Frankie last night getting finished, man. It's because I kept talking about this on the podcast before and leading up to the fight is like, anytime somebody's been through a certain number of minutes in the octagon, certain number of decisions, certain number of wars, taking a certain amount of damage in the octagon, and then in practice on top of that, you know, it's you have to be raising some concerns. So like Weidman lost 3 in a row, Rockhold, Ramiro, and Musasi, and then won on Kelvin Gastelum with an arm triangle choke back in July 22nd, 2017. So yeah. Well, man, you wanna give any plugs or anything before we wrap it on up here, dude?
I mean, if people want to see some of the sign work I've done, Lasiter signs, get the Facebook page.
Right on.
Yeah. Look at some of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. We do have a good local listenership. I get listens from all over the world. It's kind of weird. I guess that's just how the algorithms work.
Up like random places.
Yeah, I get listens in Europe and stuff.
I get stuff like that, likes on the Facebook for things that I've made from people just like in India or like,
yeah. Who knows? Like we could like open up online stores and start selling some things. Like we're just like missing out.
Yeah.
Like people be like, we will just pay if you send it to us, big time.
It'd actually be George Soros.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I need you to do these 100 signs by tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Man. Well, dude, thanks for coming on. Hopefully we can have you back on one of these days, and maybe there'll be some crazy Jordan Peterson drama we can dig into.
I guarantee you there will always be something crazy going on.
We should do one over some of the stuff's going on with Peterson, and I meant to bring up some of that, but we'll save it for another time about like YouTube and Google.
That's a huge topic.
It is. It really is. We'll plan it on for another time. Real quick, some people I'm going to be having on the podcast. I'm going to do a little plug for people listening. I'm going to be having the owner of Valley Piano on soon, Brian Chenoweth, Aaron MacArthur, All-American wrestler and oral historian, runs a museum at Arkansas Tech. Michael Lasiter, you are already on, and you're going to come back. Josh McMillan's on Friday. I'm having a guy, Ryan Peden, on, I think this coming weekend. I got to confirm with him, but it's looking like we're going to do the weekend. He walked from like England to Israel or something crazy. He's done a lot of traveling. He's been through seminary and a bunch of crazy stuff. So he's coming on. we did the fight companion. Brent, who I'm filming with at the gym, Brent Rhodes, 20 years military, stationed in Germany for years. He's coming on. We're going to do our first boxing Unraveled episode on Tuesday. We're going to watch like Mike Tyson's run to the title.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to have Josiah on, since I figure he can't do anything since he just wrecked his motorcycle. I figure he can come sit in here for like 3 hours and I can like make him feel better maybe. I don't know. So I was messaging him. I'm like, dude, you should just come over and be on the podcast for like 3 hours if you're bored. Don't go sit at work.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jesse Weiss is, I'm going to have him come back on. He's been like 21 national parks. He was my first guest. And he is about to start filming a documentary on the Buffalo River over spring break. He's filming it all on his cell phone.
Really?
So yeah, he's been working on it, thinking about it for a while. So Aaron Morris with the craft beer episode. Nick Oots is going to come on. I'm having Michael Booty back on Friday, I think, in the later afternoon, because he just went and saw the Avett Brothers in Tulsa. He's done 2 of the music Unraveleds with me. We did Drive-By Truckers and Todd Snyder. He's coming back on. We're going to do a Widespread Panic music Unraveled, and then I'm going to have another local guy, the guy that does some of my work around the house, Ryan White. He's like kind of super interested in like flooding, like the Great Flood and stuff that's happened, not like globally, but locally.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So, but he's interesting dude. He's got a history on like Arkansas floods and like local floods in the River Valley and Polk County and locally. So interesting, but that's some stuff we're going to be doing on the podcast. I got some solo stuff I'm putting out too, the history and reviews of this and that, and vlogs on our gym page for some martial arts and fitness. Russellville, a lot of words in that name. Ones which some people always pronounce as Forca.
Yeah. Yeah. You train down there at the Forca?
Here's the when people call, South American ground karate.
Yeah.
When people call, they're like, hey, I know I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. And I'm like, well, just pronounce it the way you think it's not pronounced.
Yeah.
And they're like, Forca. And I'm like, Força. Force with an A.
Yeah.
Portuguese for strength. But it's actually, if you want, because of the little accent on the C, it's more of a sound.
Okay.
Força. But
I actually like that better.
Yeah, it does. It kind of makes me sound like Mackenzie Dern. We have gone full circle. All right. Yes.
Excellent.
Signing off,
love
dude.
To see it.
All right. Thanks for coming on, bro.
No problem.